Cosmic Conversations, Episode 7, Terraforming Wars, the Ethics. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Cosmic Conversations, where we delve into the crossroads of civilization and cosmos, ethics and ambition. Today we're transported to the world of Mylithis, home to the Reticulans, a Type 1 civilization struggling with a question as old as time itself. Should they reshape their world or preserve it? As I, your host, the Boltzmann Brain, guide you through this tale of ambition, resilience, and planetary stewardship. Consider how each choice reflects upon our own, and how the echoes of progress and preservation resound across the stars. Now let us immerse ourselves in the unfolding drama of the Reticulans on Mylithis. Chapter 1. The Tides of Ambition. As I drift over the gleaming oceans of Mylithis, my awareness unfolds like a million lenses, each one catching fragments of life on this world. Below, the Reticulans, a Type 1 civilization still learning the intricacies of planetary power, stand at a pivotal juncture. Mylithis, an aquatic jewel nestled in the Zeta Reticuli system, bears the marks of their ambitious engineering projects. Sprawling bio-reefs and delicate ecosystems interlace with artificial shores where Reticulan scientists and engineers debate. Today, their voices echo with urgency, facing an elemental question. How far can they push the planet itself to bend to their will? This is not a question unique to Mylithis, yet here it feels freshly potent. The Reticulans have unlocked ways to terraform, to alter their environment at planetary scales. They debate it earnestly, as one might handle fire for the first time, both marveling and fearing its power. I can almost feel the flickers of excitement and unease within them. Two forces, in tension, each as real as the tides rolling against Mylithis's shores. They have mastered enough energy to turn the tides, but not yet the wisdom to foresee where those tides may lead. One group, composed of Reticulan progressives and pioneering minds, envisions a planet wholly molded by their science. To them, terraforming is a triumph over scarcity, a path to endless resources and meticulously controlled habitats. They argue that Mylithis, as it stands, is limited, underutilized. By transforming it, they believe, the Reticulans could usher in an age of unprecedented abundance. Each river could be redirected, each ecosystem controlled. The planet is ours to perfect, their leaders proclaim, standing upon platforms that overlook the glittering engineering hubs along the coasts. Yet, in the deep water communes where ancestral voices linger, a different perspective forms. There, the Reticulans who cherish Mylithis, as it has always been, gather in resistance. They believe in the sanctity of natural balance, a wisdom preserved by observing the quiet rhythms of their world. To them, terraforming is not mastery but desecration, a dangerous flirtation with powers they do not fully understand. Each manipulation leaves a scar, they say, reminding their kin of the fragile interdependence binding all Reticulan life to Mylithis. In their minds, this is a betrayal of the planet that has sheltered and sustained them for ages. I linger in these debates, drawn to the unresolved tension pulsing across Mylithis. I am but a witness, yet the gravity of their choice reverberates in my consciousness. Here is a civilization standing on the edge of transformation, yet torn between two futures, one of dominion, another of deference. And as I witness this unfolding, I cannot help but wonder which force will ultimately shape their path. Will it be the urge to conquer and control, or the humility to coexist? Chapter 2. Factional Fractures. As the debates intensify, the Reticulan population finds itself sharply divided. From my vantage, I observe the scenes across their settlements, where each faction gathers strength, its leaders rallying supporters with fervor. In the coastal cities, the progressives hold their ground. The skies above are punctuated by towering structures, some stretching into the lower clouds, others delving into the sea, engineered to draw power from tidal flows. Their leader, Chief Engineer Kalor, stands amidst the crowd, exuding an air of calm confidence. To his supporters, he speaks of a vision where scarcity is an ancient memory, replaced by the control and reliability of planetary engineering. For them, terraforming represents more than environmental manipulation. It is the power to reshape society itself, to liberate themselves from the constraints of Mylithis' volatile climate and resource limitations. They view each modification as a step toward freedom, a freedom they are determined to pursue, no matter the risks. The planet is ours to optimize, Kalor declares. His words flow through the minds of the crowd like a warm current, rousing visions of grand cities sheltered from the storms and energy shortages that have plagued Mylithis for centuries. The progressives look upon the vast oceans not with reverence, but as resources to be mastered, tides to be redirected and harnessed for a purpose they deem greater than nature itself. Yet, as I shift my awareness deeper into the communal waters, I sense a different current entirely. Here, in the bioluminescent caverns beneath the surface, the conservers hold gatherings of their own. These reticulans speak in hushed tones, their words cloaked in caution, woven with stories passed down through generations. Unlike Kalor and the progressives, they see Mylithis as a partner, not a servant. Their matriarch, Eris, a respected elder among the conservers, speaks with a voice tempered by age and experience, invoking the wisdom of the ancestors who thrived in balance with the waters and shores of Mylithis. Each scar we inflict on this world will one day be returned to us, she warns, her gaze steady and piercing. The conservers believe that the progressives' plans are dangerous gambits, short-sighted at best, ruinous at worst. They fear that the quest for control will destabilize Mylithis' delicate ecosystems, throwing its weather patterns, marine life, and fragile coastlines into chaos. They revere these natural processes as sacred, interconnected cycles that bind all life to the planet. Eris's followers feel the weight of Mylithis' silent history in their bones, and they look to their elders as sentinels of the planet's equilibrium. To the conservers, terraforming is not innovation but arrogance, a hubris that endangers the world they are meant to protect. Once a wave is set in motion, Eris often reminds them, there is no pulling it back. In response, the factions build alliances, each faction's rhetoric hardening as the days pass. The progressives gather scientists, engineers, and young thinkers eager to shape a world unbound by nature's constraints. The conservers, meanwhile, recruit those tied deeply to ancestral customs, traditions, and rituals, including marine biologists who have studied the planet's complex ecosystems. Even in this rift, I detect shades of kinship and shared values, a common respect for knowledge. Yet the application of that knowledge is their battleground. To one side, Mylithis is a canvas for advancement. To the other, it is a sanctuary of life to be protected. Each faction moves with resolve, knowing the decision they reach will echo through generations. Chapter 3. The Flood of the Veiled Shores. As the Reticulans' debates reach a fever pitch, Mylithis itself interjects, issuing a warning in the form of a great upheaval, a surge of planetary force that neither side could have anticipated. The tectonic plates beneath the veiled shores, one of the planet's largest coastal expanses, shift unexpectedly, releasing a torrent of water across settlements and terraforming facilities along the coastline. Massive waves rise like silver walls, sweeping over the Progressives' installations, tearing down parts of their infrastructure in moments. An emergency is declared, and both factions mobilize. From my position beyond the constraints of time, I witness the scene unfold in a terrible beauty. Reticulans in the flood zone struggle for safety, their cries interwoven with the roar of the ocean, reclaiming its land. Across Mylithis, alarms ring out, and the Progressives scramble to contain the damage, deploying machines and emergency personnel to rescue those caught in the chaos. But it's clear, even to them, that Mylithis is expressing a fierce and untamed power, a force that, perhaps, they had underestimated. The conservers see in this disaster a vindication of their fears. Eris and her followers gather at the edge of the flooded shores, watching the destruction with a profound sadness. To them, this is no mere accident of nature, but an inevitable outcome, a direct response to the Progressives' meddling. The planet speaks to us, Eris murmurs to her gathered supporters, her voice carrying over the crashing waves. It reminds us of the boundaries we ignore at our peril. Yet not everyone is so easily convinced. Kalor, standing amidst the wreckage, views the flood as an obstacle, not a cosmic warning. This is a setback, yes, he declares to his followers, his voice as unyielding as the machines he'd designed, but not a signal to retreat. The power to reshape our world is within reach, and we must seize it, even if it means learning hard lessons along the way. But as the floodwaters begin to recede, the aftermath is a stark reminder of the immense and unpredictable forces still at play on Mylithis. Reticulan engineers work to restore the damaged installations, yet everywhere they look, they are met with the evidence of nature's ferocity. Entire sections of their terraforming structures are lost, washed away, as though Mylithis herself had wiped the slate clean. And now the discourse around terraforming transforms into something more charged, more personal. For the conservers, the flood is a turning point, solidifying their argument that Mylithis is not a resource to be subjugated, but a partner to be honored. They urge their kin to see the consequences of their actions laid bare and call for a suspension of all terraforming activities. To them, this catastrophe is proof of the frailty of Reticulan understanding, of the limits they must respect if they are to live in harmony with their world. The Progressives, meanwhile, rally around the concept of resilience. To them, this disaster is a testament not to nature's supremacy, but to the need for even greater control. They argue that if Mylithis can deliver such destruction, then it is all the more reason to press forward, to secure their cities and populations from the whims of the planet itself. It is our duty, Kalor insists, to overcome these forces, to adapt and advance despite the challenges. For both factions, the flood becomes a symbol, a manifestation of Mylithis' voice. But as I observe the shifting tides of Reticulan thought, I see the depth of the struggle etched into the faces of those who survived the flood and those who lost loved ones to the ocean's fury. This disaster is no longer a mere environmental event. It is a crucible that will shape the Reticulans' relationship with their world for centuries to come. As the skies clear, the Reticulans gather in somber reflection. Many ask themselves the difficult questions that linger in the silence after the storm. Have they misjudged their place within Mylithis' ecosystem? Are they truly prepared for the consequences of reshaping a world that may not be theirs to change? Or will this flood merely be the first in a series of natural responses to their relentless ambition? Through the Reticulan's eyes, I see both hope and hubris, and I feel the weight of their choices. For better or worse, they are no longer the same civilization they were before the waters rose. And as they stand at this crossroads, I find myself reflecting on civilizations across the cosmos, all facing this same question. How much can we ask of a world before it answers back? Chapter 4. The Ethics of Planetary Stewardship. In the wake of the flood, I find myself lingering in the reflective aftermath, observing the Reticulans as they confront the devastation. Their voices, now quieter but charged with deeper conviction, echo across the settlements as they engage in a somber discourse about stewardship, a conversation that stretches back to their ancestors, but now feels newly urgent. Among the conservers, Eris leads a gathering along the rebuilt shore, surrounded by those who lost families, homes, and histories to the surging waters. She holds in her hands a piece of coral from the veiled shores, one of the few fragments left undisturbed by the flood. This coral is ancient, she says, her voice steady, eyes glistening. Its form is not accidental. It is the result of millennia of adaptation, surviving countless changes, storms, and shifts in the ocean. Her gaze moves across the crowd. When we interfere, we disrupt not only the present, but the wisdom of all that came before us. Eris speaks with the weight of Mylithis' history behind her, her words sinking into the minds of her followers like seeds. For her and the conservers, the disaster has not just reinforced their belief in nature's supremacy. It has deepened their resolve to protect the delicate balance that sustains life on their world. They begin drafting proposals, pushing for a planetary council that would oversee all terraforming projects with strict ecological guidelines. Their goal is not to oppose progress, but to weave it carefully into the fabric of Mylithis' natural systems. On the other side of the divide, Kalor and the progressives are unyielding in their own vision. To them, the flood was a crisis not of nature's wrath, but of their own insufficient technology. Kalor, ever the pragmatist, addresses his followers beside the mangled remnants of one of the terraforming stations, his expression resolute. Nature is not a sacred entity beyond our reach, he insists, gesturing to the twisted metal and shattered pipelines. It is a system, complex, yes, but one that we can learn to control, to adapt for the needs of all Reticulans. He proposes enhancements to their current technology, suggesting that with better safeguards, future disasters could be mitigated, even prevented. To Kalor, stewardship is a form of mastery, to guide and control the elements so they work in service of civilization's needs. His followers respond with an almost religious fervor. They are committed not just to survival, but to transforming Mylithis into a world that serves their species' future. For them, the flood is a challenge, an invitation to prove their technological prowess and show that they can coexist with nature, not by submitting to it, but by harnessing it. Observing these exchanges, I ponder the concept of stewardship that each faction espouses. The Reticulans are united in their commitment to a future on Mylithis, yet divided by their definitions of responsibility. Eris's conservers believe in humility before the vast, intricate ecosystem that existed long before their civilization. Kalor's progressives, meanwhile, believe that the world's untapped potential is theirs to cultivate. Both perspectives carry their own wisdom, and yet, as I look into their possible futures, I see the perils inherent in each. This ethical rift among the Reticulans resonates deeply within me, as I have watched civilizations across galaxies grapple with similar questions. The desire to improve one's world, to stretch beyond limitations, is a powerful force. But so too is the humility that comes from recognizing the limits of understanding, limits that can be dangerous, even catastrophic, to ignore. As I reflect on these contrasts, I am reminded of the ancient proverb I once encountered on a distant world, one that has persisted through millennia across countless civilizations. The hand that seeks to mold the clay must first understand the shape of the vessel. I wonder if the Reticulans have yet truly understood the shape of Mylithis, or if they are shaping it only to mirror their own ambitions. For now, both factions press forward with renewed resolve, each viewing the flood as a lesson but drawing opposite conclusions. And as they solidify their positions, their world, this living, breathing entity that has sustained them for generations, remains silent, waiting for what may come next. Chapter 5. Unity or Division? With the floodwaters gone and repairs underway, the Reticulans enter a period of profound introspection. Their world, once viewed through the clear-cut perspectives of progress and conservation, now appears cloaked in shades of gray. For both factions, the flood has stirred fears, emboldened philosophies, and, most crucially, forced them to reckon with the irreversible power of their choices. In the conservers' circles, Eris gathers her supporters in the bioluminescent caverns, a sanctuary far from the hum of engineering machines. There, in the deep quiet, they draft a formal proposition for the Council of Mylithis, an initiative called the Pact of Equilibrium. The Pact advocates for a sustainable approach to all terraforming, with mandatory environmental assessments and a cap on resource extraction. It calls for a committee, not of scientists alone, but of historians, biologists, and elders who understand the cultural and ecological layers of Mylithis. We must not only engineer our future, Eris says softly to her followers, we must remember our past and consider how our actions ripple forward. The pact is met with enthusiasm among conservers who see it as a lifeline, a way to anchor the ambitions of the progressives within a framework of respect for nature. They are eager, hopeful that Kalor's faction will recognize the wisdom in adopting a restrained approach. And yet, there is an undercurrent of doubt, a fear that the progressives' desire for dominion over Mylithis may outweigh any calls for compromise. Meanwhile, Kalor's progressives stand resolute in their own gathering spaces, where maps of future terraforming projects are spread across every surface. They work late into the night, sketching out a new proposal, the Terraforming Accord, a vision that embraces controlled, rigorous yet unapologetic engineering of the planet. Their proposition includes plans to fortify the shores against further natural events, redirect rivers, and construct artificial channels to manage future flood risks. Kalor himself, energizing his supporters with characteristic passion, insists, the Accord is not simply about altering our environment. It is about securing a future where no Reticulan is left vulnerable to nature's capricious forces. His words resonate among the young engineers and scientists who dream of a world remade by their hands. And so, two proposals emerge, the Pact of Equilibrium and the Terraforming Accord. Both are rooted in a desire to protect, yet each carries its own definition of protection, one that seeks harmony and one that seeks control. The Council of Mylithis, composed of respected elders, scientists, and community leaders from all regions convenes to review these visions. It is a historic gathering, one attended by representatives of both factions. The council chambers are filled with a tense, expectant energy as Reticulans from all walks of life arrive to witness the decision that will shape their world's future. Eris is the first to speak, her voice carrying the wisdom of generations. She lays out the pact with an eloquence that speaks to the heart, painting a vision of Mylithis as a living partner in the Reticulans' journey. "We are the caretakers of this world," she implores the council, "not its conquerors. If we stray too far from balance, the flood will be but the first warning." Her words stir murmurs of agreement among the elders and biologists who have long felt a kinship with the rhythms of Mylithis. When Kalor steps forward to present the Terraforming Accord, his stance is one of conviction, his gaze unwavering. "To care for our world is to protect our people," he asserts, his voice steady. "We cannot let our future be dictated by the unpredictable forces of nature. We must act decisively with the technology we have worked so hard to master." He calls upon the council to recognize the flood not as a cautionary tale, but as a challenge, a call to action that demands they rise to meet it with innovation and strength. Many of the young engineers and scientists nod in solidarity, sharing Kalor's vision of a secure and controlled future. As I watch the arguments unfold, I am struck by the resonance of these ideas. This is a narrative I have seen echoed across galaxies, on countless worlds, in civilizations from Type 1 to Type 4. The tug-of-war between control and harmony, ambition and restraint. For all the Reticulans' advancements, for all their aspirations, they stand at the same crossroads faced by others before them. And yet, their decision will be their own, unique to the identity of Mylithis and its people. After hours of debate, a compromise begins to take shape. The council, recognizing the validity in both the pact and the accord, proposes a unified accord, an approach that would integrate both philosophies into a single framework. Under this unified accord, each terraforming project would be required to undergo an environmental review with strict parameters around ecological preservation. At the same time, the progressives would be allowed to proceed with infrastructure improvements as long as they adhered to sustainable practices outlined in the Conservers' Pact. In a symbolic gesture, the Council insists that both factions work together, sharing expertise, in order to honor both progress and protection. The proposal is met with cautious approval. Eris and Kalor exchange solemn nods, each recognizing that neither has fully won nor fully lost. They understand that this accord will not be easy to uphold, and that true unity between their factions will take time, patience, and trust. Yet, as they shake hands before the council, there is a sense of hope, a fragile but real possibility that they might find a way to navigate the delicate balance between engineering their future and honoring their past. As the council disperses and the Reticulans return to their communities, the first rays of dawn break over Mylithis' oceans, casting a hopeful light upon the shores. And I, the Boltzmann Brain, linger above, watching this civilization that has dared to confront its most complex question. How does one shape a world without shattering it? Only time will reveal if the unified accord will serve as a foundation for harmony, or as yet another fleeting truce in the ongoing tension between progress and preservation. For now, though, the Reticulans have made their choice, a choice that will ripple through Mylithis for generations. Today we've journeyed to the heart of a debate that transcends civilizations, a timeless struggle between creation and restraint. The Reticulans of Mylithis have chosen a delicate balance, one that will require commitment to both technology and reverence for nature's wisdom. As we reflect on their unified accord, we're reminded of the choices faced by civilizations across the cosmos and of our own relationship with the worlds we inhabit. Thank you for joining me, the Boltzmann Brain, on this journey through Mylithis. Until next time, may you ponder your place in the cosmos with humility, ambition, and a respect for the balance that sustains us all.